Great, so for our beautiful guest today, we have my dear sister, Nina. So a little bit about what we're going for today. So she is a natural level 6 at the root. And for her look, what we're trying to do is to create some illuminating effects around the hairline. And then with our base, we like to take that a little bit deeper so that she has a little bit more of that lived in, darker feeling look. And then the whole look together is incorporated so that when she puts her hair up, she has all of these beautiful highlights that pop through. Now, situations that come up with her as her hair color fades, so obviously she has to deal with the root touch-up that we're going to touch up today. Again, touch up the highlights around the face, but in through the bottom, we have a particular problem that we always seem to run into. So we end up losing our dimension. So at the ends all start to become one solid color. And really what I'm looking to do today is to bring out some of the dimensions. So we'll add in some lighter pieces for brightness, also to help correct the tonality. And then also we'll add in some deeper pieces so that we're able to give more darker dimension. And then in between those foils, we're going to address the in-between color that rarely is addressed. And we're gonna be doing that today with our Colorwear Cream Gel and our Colorwear Gloss Toner. So stay tuned and I will show you our formula and the technique on our model. Great, so for our formula today, I'm going to be using our BB Bleach High Lift. It gives you up to 9 levels of lift, and the mixing ratio that I'm going to do is a 1:2 mixing ratio. So the importance of that is I'm able to give nice adherence to the hair. I also need it to stay a little bit viscous. When working with thicker textured hair or hair that has been previously colored, the key is saturation. So the more product you're able to get onto the hair, the better the product is going to do at lifting. So a 1:2 mixing ratio is fantastic. A 1:2.5 mixing ratio would give you a little bit more viscosity so that the bleach is able to last longer, and the effect would be better lifting. So I'm gonna start out here. I'm going to add in 20 grams of my high lift. And then I'm going to add in 40 grams of my 20 volume developer. So I have a 1:2 mixing ratio. Perfect. So I'll take my brush and then I will just mix these together. Making sure to mix my mixture very evenly. For those of us who have issues with lifting, the powder has our bi-bond complex and it also has our lifting complex. So I always have a pro tip of making sure you mix your bleach completely. You want to make sure that the consistency is even and smooth. You don't want too many lumps in your bleach. And that's going to give you even, consistent results as you lift. Keeping in mind that our bi-bond complex is keeping the hair in great condition as we lift, so there's no need to add a bond builder into our product. The product has it already mixed in there. As long as we're measuring and mixing to consistency, you're able to get nice, even bleach that should just gently fall off your brush. Okay, so starting off with our sections, I always like to bring out the baby fine hair pieces around the face, and then I also take a section from our ear bridge to just back behind it. The reasons that I choose these sections is that they are important because these are the sections that the client sees the most. When our client puts her hair up, these are the sections that she's able to see. When she wears it down, it's the part that creates that money piece. So creating this high dimensional brunette look, I want to incorporate highlights, but I want to make sure that they're in the right places. So the first place that I really would like to start is right here behind the ear. So I'm going to take my section and I'm going to take a nice weave, not too thick, not too thin, but I'm going to try to gather as much hair as I possibly can within this connection. Now, being that this is around the ear, it tends to make it a little bit difficult to get that full bridge all the way around, but don't worry, this is not one of the ones where we have to make sure that everything is extremely connected, especially with our brunette guests. So I'm going to take my foil. I'm going to lift the hair all the way up so that when I place in my foil, it locks in as close as I can get that to the scalp. I'm going to apply my product. Again, this is our BB Bleach High Lift. This is mixed 1 to 2 with 20 volume. So as you can see, as I'm applying, I want to make sure that I can get close enough to the scalp. So I'm just going to hold the edges, tickle towards the root, and then blend down in towards my ends. If my guest is asking to go lighter, I can drag that down to the ends, but I don't want to apply as heavy as I would towards the root. Towards the root, I'm looking to get a lot more lift, so I need a heavier saturation. So you can gently guide that bleach down, or you can omit those ends just to kind of keep that healthier for the touch-up portion. Oops. So after I set this in, I'm just going to lock it. But because she's brunette and I'm looking to make sure that I get a lot more brightness to this midsection, this section of my hair needs to be closer to the head for the heat. So I'm just going to flip this up. And then instead of making a tight packet, I'm going to leave the ends open a little bit. But I am going to trap it in a more trapezoidal shape. So that gives me a little stronger hold. And I make sure that the air is able to oxygenate out of that foil. So my trick to you as stylists at home, I'm going to flip this up, pin it, and then so that I can get the hair that I missed in that bottom section, I'm just going to take the reverse side of my weave. So the reverse section of what I just took. And then same thing, I'm going to highlight this hair. This is going to make it a lot faster of a technique, and you're going to be able to create a lot bolder of a highlight without having to worry about that skunk line if you were to do 2 back-to-back slices. So again, I'm going to lift my hair up, I'm going to place my foil, I'm going to drop it in to lock it, and I'm going to apply my mixture, which again is our BB Bleach, using 20 volume in a 1 to 2 mixing ratio. Heavier saturation towards the roots, and then lighter saturation towards the already processed ends. I'm not looking to create too much lift. I just want to make sure that our roots blend down through our mid-length and ends. And then if you guys can see product-wise, I'm making sure that I'm going back and applying product, especially where I need additional lift. So those hairs that have been previously colored, or the hairs that are darker naturally, I would apply a little bit more. If you can't see the bleach while it's on the foil, you should think and add some more, especially if you're looking to create lift on darker bases or previously colored hair. So I'm just going to fold my ends out of the way. I'm going to take my foil packet, again, fold it one more time up so that the ends are closer to the root where the heat is. That will help with additional lift. So I'm going to lock my packet in. Here I have nice 2 packets back to back. I was able to take the reverse of one weave and then add it to the other. Now, if your guest is requesting to be super light, you could also throw in an additional foil right here on the hairline. Being that I want to keep my guest on a little bit more of the brunette side, I'm keeping this hair out so that it gives more blend, especially because I went a little bit more intense with the highlight right behind the ear. If you're looking to do more of a full foil action, you could as well do the hair within the nape line so that you would connect this all fully to that section. This hair tends to be the most sensitive, so I don't do it each time. I tend to do it whenever it starts to feel like 3 or 4 sessions have gone by and I need to touch it up. So now that we have done that side, we're going to do the same thing to the opposite side. Great, so now that we have finished our back sections, we're ready to get our work around the face. So depending on how light our client wants, we can connect this side to around the temple. I'm going to take some of this hair, section that off so that I know where I'm working in. So this is a little bit too much for me. Perfect. Great, so again, my first section, I'm utilizing this space so that I can corner in this section here so that when women usually put their hair up, there's a section of the recession that's not highlighted. So if we're able to target it from both zones, you're always able to get a highlight in that section. So that's my thought process. And starting here, I'm gonna take my section. Again, I'm gonna take a little sliver. If I want to do a more micro-weaved technique, I'm gonna keep my fingers nice and close to that section. If I want it to be a little bit thicker and chunkier, I'm going to move my hands down. So for this around the face, I wanna keep this a little bit more natural, so I'm gonna keep my fingers close to the head as I weave. You're able to create a lot more of a micro, fine weave. So I'm gonna section this out. Again, you can kind of see my weave pattern here. Take my foil, and again, apply my mixture. Now, being that I'm using our high lift color, and this tends to be a finer texture, I don't want to overload the product like I would in certain areas that I need stronger lift. So even though we are using our high lift and we are using our 20 volume, I just want to make sure I'm not overdoing it on some of these finer sections. So I'm going to apply very light-handedly. I only need to create a little bit of lift here around the face. If our guest is asking for a much more intense look, no, you need to apply more product. For this, I can keep it softer, I can keep it natural, and I don't have to mix up another fresh bowl. I'm going to tickle that as close as I can to the root, and we'll lock this in. Again, I'm going to fold this up closer so we get that heat from the natural heat from the scalp. So like we did in our section before, you can already see that there's a weave pattern that's sticking out to me. I'm just going to pick up that weaved section so I can create all that intensity without having to create two sliced effects. So took that section. Again, we're just going to lock in our foil. I'm gonna lift the section all the way back, then drop it forward, and that will help create no distance between the scalp and your foil so that you can get those highlights right as close as possible. And another unique factor of the bleach is you don't have to worry about it swelling. So if you want to get as close as possible to the root, you don't have to worry about it. You have the insurance that our product won't swell outside of the foil, leaving you with those obnoxious bleed marks. So for this, I'm going to tickle it up. I'm gonna leave out those ends, again, because I only wanna create a little bit of lift. It's already light. I just wanna make it that much better. So in the section behind the ear, we did 2 foils. I'm going to recommend 3 for this section, especially for some of this baby fine hair. It really is going to do a nice job of overlaying that section. So I'm just going to section out a little bit of hair from our previous section. I don't wanna lighten that. I want to keep that as a buffer between our microfine pieces around the face and the intensity we put just behind that with our back-to-back weaves. So I'm going to take some of this baby hair, being very gentle to make sure I just get what I need and not over highlight what I don't. Took my section, excuse me there. Again, I'm going to take my foil. I'm going to lift the section up and away, then I'll put my foil, and then I will pull the pieces, and you can see I get a lot easier access to the scalp this way. So I don't need too much product, like I said, just enough to create the lift, but not so much to overdo it. These pieces are baby fine. They will lift very easily. It goes back to our texture talk before. If you have fine hair, it's going to lift a lot easier than if you have a coarser texture. So we'll just lock this in. Remember my trapezoid technique, this is going to be a lot more secure, so you don't have to worry about these slipping. So we have our 3 foils. We have a microfine weave here, closest to the face. I left out a little bit of hair as a buffer. And then we were able to take 2 back-to-back weaves with no hair in between so that we're able to create intensity, but you won't have to worry about that severe line when she pulls it back. So very quick, very fast technique. I'm going to do that same technique on the other side, and then we will get to around the face and then to her root touch-up. Great, so now that we have both sides finished, we can tackle the money piece, and this is the most important part, so that's why I tend to get to it a little bit later in my sectioning. A, because the pieces tend to be a little bit more delicate, but B, also my fingers have gotten in the motion of how do I highlight proficiently. So I'm going to tackle my money piece, and I'll start on either side, and the goal of this, like we said, is to connect the front right into this recession area that we tend to miss a lot. So I'm just going to take 1 to 3 sections, just adding in that highlight to connect that. So the first one that I'm going to do, I'm just going to take a light thin skim, incorporating as much of that recession area as I possibly can. Some of our guests will have a decent amount of hair to grab from there, some will not, so the thinner the section will be able to determine how much of that hair you can get. So we are going to take this section here. If I want to keep that more of a baby light, I'm going to keep my fingers closer to the root so that I get a nice fine micro weave. For this section, that is definitely my goal, being that this is the one right in front of her face that she will see most of the time. I'm going to take my section up. Again, we're using our high lift with 20 volume. Being that this hair tends to be a little bit more delicate, I do leave it towards the end of my lightening process, but another skill and another tip that I can give you guys is if we don't saturate this product fully. So I'm just going to go in here. I'm going to make sure that there's enough product to be able to lighten, but I don't need to oversaturate it so that I can create a nice soft lift even with our high lift bleach. So I'm just going to paint there, run it through a little bit over that combination line from tones, but definitely not towards the ends. Great. I'm going to kick those ends out, fold up my packets. Again, I'm going to stick with folding this up twice, or folding up once, excuse me, and then I'm just going to get this out of her eyesight. Do a little origami with our foils. That's okay, because the different ways that we fold the foils, it'll keep it nice and tight, so you don't have to worry about it slipping out. So don't get stuck in a box, literally, where you're folding your foils in just boxes. Maneuver them so that you get a little bit more tensile strength out of it, and then also it's out of her vision. Great, next section is going to be right behind that. And I'm going to take a slightly larger section than before, because again, I'm going to go back into taking our weave and taking the reverse side of that weave so that you can create a little bit more intensity with less timing. So our section here, I'm just going to take a weave. You notice my fingers are a little bit further out, so I'm taking a slightly larger weave than before. Lift up. Again, incorporating hair from our recession point so that no matter where she pulls her hair back, she's able to get a great bright highlight around the face. Lift the hair fully back, drop the hair onto the foil. Now, application-wise, if you wanted this to be less intense, which I do want to have the intensity, but I don't want the entire recession area to be intense. So for this section here, I'm actually going to apply our bleach in a diagonal position. So I'm going to start with applying it diagonal, and then I'm just going to feather it closer towards our root, especially towards the face, because we want these pieces to be brighter. I still would like to see this, but I don't need to drag that line all the way up. The diagonal is going to keep it nice and blended and blurred so that you get that pop from the money piece, but it's not so much that it feels like it's too intense. So we'll kick those ends out. We're going to fold our foil up. One more time, we'll lock it in, and then we'll go to the section right underneath it. And luckily for us, pretty much most of that was weaved out. So we can take the weave the same size, or we can take it a little bit smaller. The benefit is it stands out. You don't have to worry about finding that weave. It usually sticks out right next to it. So for this section here, I do want to keep her a little bit lighter, so I'm going to go right in towards the root. So hold my hair up, drop my foil in, drop my hair over the top. You can see that I have that tensile strength there at the root, so that I'm not worried about my foil slipping, and I definitely won't have to worry about bleed marks. So again, I'm going to go right up towards the root on this one. I'm a little bit more saturated towards the root, but I feather that down into the mid-length and ends because I don't need as much intensity there. All right. Kick those ends over. Lock my foil in. And perfect, we're able to lock our 3 foils in around the face. So you have 2 back-to-back weaves, a little hair in between for blend, and then our micro-refined baby root around the face, so that no matter where she pulls her hair back, she's able to have that intensity, and it'll grow out extremely well for her. So we'll do that same technique on the other side, and then I will show you a little bit of our touch up on our root color, and then an additional highlights and lowlights to add dimension. Great, so now as you can tell, we've finished around the face, and then as I spin our model around, you can see the crown effect of what the shape is starting to take place. So we have all of our light pieces around the face. All of them are made for purpose, so we put them in so that we can create that brightness and the connection. Now what we're going to do is we're going to address the root situation. Like I said before, she's a natural level 6, but she likes to create more of that deeper, darker tone. So instead of using permanent color and worrying about lifting her natural root and having a red overcast, I'm going to go in with Colorwear Cream Gel, and I'm going to use that in a 1-to-1 mixing ratio with a level 4. So that we can cover up her natural hair and then give her more of that rich, intense look that we get from when we give ourselves color. So not that she has any grays, but I do want to address her root color. And then if she did have any gray, the Colorwear would cover 100% when mixed 1-to-1 for 35 minutes. So the benefit of using Colorwear Cream is that you can darken the base, but you can also cover gray hair. So the benefit there is no ammonia. So having that formula available you in a permanent formula or in a no ammonia formula is very beneficial. And for my guest here, that's what we'll be doing today. So I'm going to use Colorwear Cream Gel, level 4, mixed 1-to-1 with 5 volume. We'll apply that just at the root, and then we'll drag down a little bit to refresh that color, and then we'll add in our dimension with our highlights and lowlights. Great, so now that we have that finisher on the face, we're really going to address the root portion. Like I said before, her natural level is a level 6, and we're going in with Colorwear Cream Gel, mixed 1-to-1 with 5 volume, and it's a level 4. So we're just going to touch up the root here. If you look down for me, I have the section around the crown sectioned out, and this is the hair that we're mainly going to focus on. So in this hair here, I tend to leave this out so that I can lighten it from time to time. So if I'm able to put this forward, it drops as a veil over the top of it, so I don't need to darken everything. I only need to really darken the parts that we're going to use in this situation. So I'm just going to take this up, we'll clip this, and then we'll apply this like we would a normal single process. And then I will show you some step-by-steps on the highlight and low light. So let's take this, let me grab my gloves. Great, so now that we have our section, we are really going to focus within this top. I have my mixture mixed 1-to-1. That's Colorwear Cream, level 4 with 5 volume. So I'm just going to take my section and I'm going to outline it. When mixed 1-to-1, the color has a lot more potency. So effective, especially if you're looking to cover 100% of gray hair, or in situations where you need a little additional depth. So Colorwear Cream will give you that depth because it is 50% depth and 50% tone. So we're going in, applying this to the veil section. I'm applying about 1 inch out. That's where her regrowth is. And then we will drag down a little bit just to refresh some of that previous color. Colorwear Cream Gel is one of my favorites to do this technique because you don't have to worry about the ammonia that would be in our evolution of the color or our precious nature. So as her hair color grows out, there is no residual fade off. You don't have to worry about it lifting the root, being that it is based in arginine instead of based in ammonia. So it's great for clients who don't come to see you as often or are looking for a softer transition as their hair grows out. So I'm just going to apply this just to that root line first. I'm going to take long sections. This saves me a ton of time in the salon so that I can make sure I accurately apply to that line. Saturation is also going to be key here. If you don't see enough product at the root, then you're definitely not going to get the impact of that color. Another pro tip that I'd like to give you guys when applying color, when I am going around teaching classes, I notice that as people apply, they tend to swipe and move that color away from where it needs to be. In this situation, it's not as big of a deal because her hair is a natural level 6 and I'm not fighting any gray. But if her hair had gray and I really wanted to make sure that I was going to get fabulous gray coverage, I would make sure I apply the product like I was applying brick paste. You want to place the product onto the hair versus swiping and moving that product down. So that's really important, especially for gray coverage, or making sure that you have enough pigment where it needs to be. Speaking about my hair a little bit, when I apply my toner, the first thing that I do is my root. I don't go to the bowl and I apply it everywhere wet. I will dry it and then I will apply the color to my root first, and then I will apply it to my mid-length and ends. The important thing about that is the fresh color at the root will adhere and it'll give you more of that lived-in effect. If you apply that everywhere first, I'm sure a lot of us have had this situation happen, the ends will grab that color or that toner very vibrantly and the roots won't get enough of that penetration. So being able to dry our hair, to be able to apply the color on with Colorwear Cream is extra beneficial. So going through, nothing too exciting here except for touching up the roots. Now, depending on our guest, we can use intuitive thought. So some of our guests may need a smaller veil if they're not looking for as much depth and intensity. Or if they are, like we said, a great coverage or more brunette, you can do the entirety of the head. I'm usually, for my guest here, looking for intensity at the top of that crown. So I did one side. I'm just going to spin so we can show the other side. Okay, great. Again, we're using Colorwear Cream Gel. This is mixed 1:1 with 5 volume. This is a level 4. And we're really just making sure that we apply right to the root line so that for our next step, I can show you the drag down that makes it easier for me to blend. Being that Colorwear Cream Gel is a vegan, no ammonia formula, it's extra gentle to the hair. Versus our previous formula, this is 60% more, less erosion to the hair cuticle, so it's actually a lot more caring and a lot more gentle to the hair. I love that you don't have to worry about it lifting the base, especially with 5 volume. You're gonna get all the deposit you need without having to worry about any warm undertones as it fades off. Pigment-wise, for the shade selection, one of the benefits that I also really enjoy with Colorwear Cream Gel is that it matches tone for tone evolution of the color and precious nature. So if you did have a guest that was looking to switch to something a little bit more vegan, or maybe a little bit more less ammonia, being that this is a no ammonia color line, you will still be able to get the 100% gray coverage. The difference is you're using your no ammonia line, but the tonality will match. So a 9 in colorware is a 9 in evolution, is a 9 in precious nature. So there is no guesswork when it comes to choosing your tone. It really just becomes the choice of which product suits your guest best and which will have the easiest maintenance for that client. So just finishing up here, I'm applying to my last section. As you can see, we have that veiled section. Touching up. As you can see, we applied all through this top section. Tilt back just a tiny bit for me. And this is our veiled section. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to feather the color down a little bit so that we get that nice soft blend, and then we'll go into some of the dimension for the rest of the hair. So I'm going to take this again. I'll separate it just to make my life a little bit easier. Then before I start to do my blend, I'm going to take my Alfaparf Milano wet brush, and I'm just going to smooth out some of that hair so you get rid of any of those pieces that may get tangled in there. So again, applying my blur. I'm going to keep it a little bit lighter towards the face, but I'm going to drag it down as I come down so that as we get closer to the back of the head, the drag down becomes a little bit more severe. I won't need to do this in too many of my sections, just the first couple, so that we can get that severe blend that we're looking for. So again, lighter towards the top of the head. You can drag it down a little bit further into the back. I'm gonna do one more section that same way. And this is just to transition the root that we applied down through the mid-length and ends. Perfect. I'll take that, and then we will do the other side. Spin a little bit there. Again, take our first section. Let's just brush this real quick to gather everything. Sorry for the pull. Again, taking our product mixed 1-to-1, a little bit lighter towards the face. We can drag it down a little bit more, the mid-length and the ends down here in the back. Take another section, same thing. A little bit around the face, and then as we go down, we can apply a little bit deeper. One last time here. Taking our product, again, a little bit, and we can drag that down. Same thing here. Great. Once we have that, we can gather again, and I'm just going to make sure that I brush through. And when I separate this on both sides, we can see that effect. So I just want this to go over the top of my highlights in the back so that it has more of that lived-in feel to it, so that it transitions some of my darker level 4 with my lighter level 9 around the face, having so that it blends down. You're always going to get a soft, easy blend and transition. Being that this is a 4, this is very dark, but this same application with a different color could be done for any kind of root smudge or root melt that you're looking to accomplish. So now that we've gotten to this point, the only thing that I'm going to add in is a couple of low lights here and there to break it up. I'm gonna stick with my level 4 in through the bowl. I don't need a ton of pieces, just some to break that up. And then in between my foils, I'm gonna use my gloss toner, and I can show you a little bit of that step as I finish. So now that we're here, I just want to address a little bit of the dimensions. So I'm just going to incorporate a little of the root color that we did as a low light to break up some of the intensity on the blonde. Here in South Florida, my particular problem is that everything tended to get too light. So a lot of my clients will request more highlights, when in actuality, we can give them the dimension with the lowlights that makes their highlights appear even lighter. So I don't want to go overboard with the lowlights here. I just want to add additional dimension. So I'm going to take 3 larger weaves, and I'm focusing most of my color in through my mid-length and my ends. I might leave a little bit of the tips out just so I can create that nice pop towards the ends, but I'm focusing more along the lines of the depth that we did through the root. So I'm just gonna take my product. This is our color wear, R4, but we mix this in a 1:3 mixing ratio. So the importance of this is I'm giving a little bit more translucency. And then pro tip, for any of the people that are using gloss toners that would like something to be in a deeper shade, my hack to you is mixing up color wear cream gel in a 1:3 mixing ratio to get very similar results to a color wear gloss toner. So very similar to what we're doing at the roots, just a little bit less intensity with our mixing ratio. So I'm going through to my mid-length and my ends. I'm just trying to create some depth. So I'm going to ice out these ends just a little bit. This will give us some more richness to our color, and it will also help brighten up those blonde pieces that are next to it, because we all know that next to something dark, the blonde looks much more blonde. And we're able to keep our hair in better condition because we're not putting too much bleach on it as well. So we're just gonna fold this up. I'm gonna do another fold. And then I'm just going to lock the pieces in, again, in that trapezoid pattern, so that I get a little bit more strength. So I'm gonna take my section and I'm gonna give myself one more low light. So I'll take my section, leaving my veil, gonna drop, just going to twist this out of my way. So I have my section. Again, I'm just going to take 3 weaves here. And this is just to break up some of my blonding so that I can create more of that dimension. So I'm going to take my foil, I'm going to place where I need it, and take my color wear, level 4, mixed 1:3, and I'm just going to apply this to my mid-length and ends to drag that dimension and make those blonde ends pop even more. Now, if you're doing more dimension, you could definitely add that in through the back. I already like where we're at with our color, and I'm a big believer in working smarter, not harder. You don't want to put in too much work where then you need to over lighten it afterwards. So put our foil in. Same thing. We're going to lock that in. I'm going to apply to the other side. Same thing over here. I already have it sectioned, so I'm just going to take it, take my 3 panels, mainly focusing on my mid-length and ends, refreshing some of that depth from the root. As you can see, I'm just fading in our depth from the root into a couple pieces on the ends. Let's lock this in just to make sure it's not an issue for later. And we'll take one more sliver from the top. Great. Now let's do 3 more. Again, mainly focusing on our mid-length and ends. He's coming over for you. Applying there. Let's lock this in. Great. So now we have our added dimension. We have our color at the root. The only thing that we're missing is our in-between color. So this is a perfect point, especially for our blonde guests, to address that in-between color. So after this situation, we would normally pull our foils, tone our client, and then we would have this in-between color that we would either have to formulate to neutralize with our fresh highlights, or we formulate for our highlights and we never really address it. So you always find this warmth that tends to kick back. Now that we have our Colorwear Gloss Toner, I'm able to apply while I have our roots and our highlights processing, so we can address this mid color so that when our client's done, we could do a quick gloss toner for our fresh highlights, but our job is over. So this is going to help address clients that tend to have that in-between color that we're not able to fix. Colorwear Gloss Toner is fantastic because it's not going to kill your depth, it's just going to supply the tone, especially to these ends that really need a little kiss. So what we're going to do today is our 0817 from Colorwear Gloss Toner. That has a dominance in blue for our ash, and then it has a secondary tone of our matte, which is a green. So it's perfect in being able to create nice tonalities, because you can see we still have a little bit of copper left, and we also have some of our lighter yellow ends. So it'll be able to create a nice unique tone to complement all of the tones that we have going in her hair, so that when it's all done, it's finished. You don't have to worry about addressing the in-between color. So in our next step, I will show you how we apply that and how that processes. Great, so with our final step, now that we have our highlights in, we have our base color in, and then we did add in our dimensional lowlights, we're just going to address that in-between color so effective and so efficiently with our Colorwear Gloss Toner. It's quick, it's easy, and it's fast, and most importantly, you're not worried about losing your depth, you're only worried about supplying the tone. It's 80% tonality, so it's perfect for this in-between color, and also reviving that gloss and that shine. So what I'm going to do is our 0817 mixed 1 to 2 with our activator, and we're going to apply that through her mid-length and ends, and that should be done around the same time as her highlights are done processing. So it's a one-stop fix, so that when your guest comes back in, there's no residual fade out of unwanted tones, and then it's very fast and easy. So I'll show you my quick technique. I'm just going to take some of the hair, and as easy as applying it with your hands and the bottle, we're just going through and we're going to pre-tone any of the hair that's left out of our foils. I'm going to apply this, and then I'm going to use my Alfaparf detangling brush, and I'm just going to help massage and then blend that through to the mid-length and the ends. The smell is fantastic, the adherence is great, and then also that benefit of being able to have the arginine technology, so we're keeping that cuticle in great condition as well. So we're just going to take this, and we're going to apply, massage that down. Taking more of our sections from underneath. So the key part to folding those foils in the trapezoid is so that you don't have to worry about, as you're maneuvering the hair, to disrupt the foils. They help keep it in place, and they're really difficult for your assistant to remove after. So taking my brush, just making sure I brush that through. It glides through the hair extremely easily, so you don't have to worry about fighting to get this product through the hair. Again, let's get some of these under sections. And you can already start to see the tonality changing in the sections that we did before compared to the other hair. And these are very difficult to tone around because a lot of times when our stylists get to the bowl, they're formulating for the toner that we just put in with our highlights. If you're toning for this in-between color, you would end up dulling out your new highlight way too much. So having the ability to put gloss toner in between while it processes is a great benefit. Super fast, super easy. So again, we're just applying our Colorwear Gloss Toner to our mid-length and ends, correcting any of that in-between tone. Very effective and very fast. The shine is incredible, and the health to the hair is extremely better after applying this in between. So going through, just in this top section, same thing. Very quick and very easy going through the hair, just applying this additional tone. I am taking my brush and making sure that I fully distribute it through my mid-length and ends just so they get a chance to process fully. And then you can see one of the sides of the head is already finished. Now we just need to do our other side. Thank you. Taking special care to stay away from her face. Applying to everywhere outside of the foils. So you can see going in, applying gloss toner very fast, very efficiently. I'm getting the support from the tone, but not as much from the depth, so I'm able to keep her light pieces still light. It's not going to neutralize all of the warmth and the depth so that you're just left with brunette. You're able to create multi-tonal looks with Colorwear Gloss Toner without having to sacrifice your depth. Just going in through. Making sure I use my brush just to make sure I get this product all the way through the hair. Making sure I detangle it before. And it's very quick and fast to be able to apply this product. Next section, just taking it, combing it through, making sure I get this product everywhere. taking it, making sure that we massage the product through. And then as we turn her around, what you can already see in the side that I started before versus the side that I just finished, the capabilities of Colorwear Gloss Toner. Importance is you can still see through it. Remember, it's 80% tone, 20% depth, so very effective at creating that dimension and that in between without losing that dimension that you work so hard to create in the first place. But this is really gonna help take your color game to the next level by utilizing our BB bleaches, our Evolution of the Color or Colorwear Cream Gel for gray coverage or root smudging, and then that gloss toner to really polish off and tone out the ends. But that's not where we're going to finish with Colorwear Gloss Toner, because after this is all said and done, what we're going to do is another overlay over her highlights with Colorwear Gloss Toner so that you can see the true power over highlighted hair, so that you can correct tones and do corrective work with it, polish off your gray coverages that you're refreshing the ends, but most importantly, being able to have another tool in your tool belt, be able to create the looks that your guests are requesting. Welcome back. So we have our finished model, Nina. Going back to a little bit what we did process-wise, we were able to do some foil highlights around the face. After that, we were able to place in a level 4 from our Colorwear cream. After we placed in our root, we were able to add in some dimensional lowlights with the same Colorwear level 4, but mixed in a 1:3 mixing ratio. The roots we were able to do in a 1:1, so you get a lot more of that intense shade. And through our lowlight, we did the same color, but in a 1:4 mixing ratio, so we were able to break up some of the solid blonde throughout the bottom. And then in between all of that, we were able to add in our 8.17 from our Colorwear Gloss Toner, and you can see the effects. It was able to tone out in between her color. It was able to leave everything nice and vibrant, but still see that translucency from the blonde underneath it. And then as far as showing you some of the color, one of my favorite parts is as we start to lift and show, you can see all of that placement from our highlight that we were able to place underneath. So the nice part is every time that Nina will put her hair up, she has all of those beautiful highlights to be able to cascade and hide the dark behind it. Tonality wise, when we were able to finish, we were able to place in equal parts 10.17 and 10.26. And as we were talking before with our shades, you can see that I mixed the two of these together. So what you have in through here is you have equal parts of a pink and you have equal parts of this matte green. So when you mix them together, what you're able to do is neutralize the pink and neutralize the green. And what you're left with is what I like to call a pure platinum toner. So you can see that is the 10.17 mixed with the 10.26. So two shades you wouldn't normally think to use behind the chair. I was able to incorporate that and give her this really customized blonde shade that is stunning. It's not too ashy, it's not too warm, it's perfect for creating unique tones that only Colorwear Gloss Toner is able to give you. So for some of our complete look, sorry. So to sum up some of our complete look, what I'll show you is a little bit of the back so that you can see some of that toning action, and as well as some of the lowlights we put in there. So we were able to add in that level 4 lowlight and really help break up some of that blonde that was towards the bottom. So what you get here is those bigger, brighter pops without having to add in a highlight. We were able to do that with our Colorwear cream. And then in between, we were able to use our Colorwear Gloss Toner to really address some of this previously colored hair that we don't have to always touch with bleach. So the benefit is it's quick, it's fast, it's easy. And as you can obviously tell with our guest Nina here, her hair is in better condition now than it was before we started our service. So key takeaways from this: Gloss toner is fast, it's simple, it's easy. You're able to neutralize warmth without losing your depth. And you're able to create these beautiful customizable tones by mixing and intermixing the gloss toners together. My favorite combination is 10.026 and 10.17. I would love to see what you guys are able to create behind the chair. So don't be afraid to mix in different tones, add in pigments, be able to customize and create whatever you're looking for to keep your guest 100% happy.